Sort of a last minute topic that we chose today instead of doing the sort of equipment or behind the scene ones that we were looking at doing. And it's because of some people who reached out to me and they had a question about something that you and I talked about a few days ago.
Cool.
And I thought it was cool too. Although, well, let's get into it. Do you
All right.
remember where we were talking about how there's sort of like three layers of messaging, right? In sales and marketing, there's the, informational, which is this is who we are and what we do. And
Yes.
then there's the inspirational, which is you could be a better company or a better person if buy what we sell. And then the transformational, which is you could be a different company or
Yes.
different person if you like buy into this and purchase from me, right? And I got all of the questions were around the first layer. Sort of people sort of understood the transformational and they sort of understood the inspirational. But I got some folks reaching out who said, "Hey, what about the fact that I do need to actually like say what we sell and its features and the details of it?" And
Mm.
so it made sense like to go into that
Okay.
because one of them had an add-on question. Does this mean that if I need to tell people, or does this mean that if I'm really aiming to inspire, that I have no content that is just informational? Like I should always be trying to sort of be inspirational and sort of kind of, yeah, in a way. But let's be clear: on every layer, informational, inspirational, or transformational, on every layer, there's only one goal, and that's to persuade somebody to do something, to let your company move closer to their company, right? To take the next step, to sign up for a newsletter, to attend a webinar, to go to the conference, to allow a demo, right? Sign up for a
Mhm.
demo, or to invite salespeople in to talk to them, right? At every layer, it's the same goal in it, that's to persuade. So then, sort of the follow up on that is a phrase that I use a lot when I'm trying to explain to clients why we're reworking a lot of their stuff. And the phrase is, we inform with the text, but we persuade with the subtext. And
Mhm.
if you're going to persuade with the subtext, what does that actually mean? Right? Persuading with the subtext usually means, well, let's go back 1 second. Normally, we always end up with, at least I always end up with clients who want to be assertive. Like there's sort of a range from selling from your heels all the way to being aggressive. I don't know anybody in B2B that like wants to be aggressive in their tone or their sales approach or
Yeah.
the marketing, right? But assertive is absolutely, you should be assertive, right? If you believe in what you sell and what you make, you stand on that and say, our stuff's good. We think you should buy it. Here's why. Here's a positive future with you in it if you bought this. And so normally, when they want to persuade with subtext, it's because they want to make a claim that doesn't jive with the tone they think they need to convey. So they want to say that they're friggin' awesome, but not in a context where that would turn off, a potential prospect or a potential customer.
Okay.
And so what you do is we use subtext instead of like that would be informing with the text is we're awesome, everyone else is crap. Here are the reasons why, and if you haven't bought our stuff by now, you're an idiot, right? That would be informing with the text. It's brash and over the top, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Subtext is where they read everything. You've not actually said the thing or the things that you want them to believe. It's nowhere in the text, but when they're finished reading it, they come away with that impression. I once had a client who came back and said, "We can't say A and B." And I said, "I didn't say A and B." And he said, "Yeah, I read it. And it's clear." And I say, "Here's my screen. Show me where I said that." And it's nowhere in the text.
Interesting.
Right. There are two ways to achieve that: signaling and proximity. Let's do proximity first. Proximity uh, takes advantage of the fact that humans love patterns and will see patterns in everything, right? They'll see cars when they look at clouds in the sky, right? They'll see shapes and monsters and hearts and God knows whatever, right? I mean, ancient people saw pictures made out of like stars, and that's why we call them constellations. Those stars are not
Sure.
related to each other. It's just we see a Big Dipper or a Little Dipper, right? We see Orion and so on. And so people, we see Jesus's face burned into cheese toast,
Yes.
right? People, our brains love finding patterns even if there is no pattern. So proximity means you put an idea. It's normally has to do with putting an idea or a sentence down and then putting another one right next to it. Basically, you're putting down A and you're putting down C, and a lot of the time people will create B by themselves.
Right.
If A is true and C is true, logically B is what belongs in there. And they actually believe B more and are more persuaded of B being true, even though you haven't said it, because we believe stuff that we come up with on our own. Not much more to it than that.
No.
The
I,
trick is in knowing what to say in A and C so that it leads people to connect them with a B that they make themselves. And then signaling is where you, instead of saying A, you say B because people who see B will assume A. I had one session at one point, someone wanted to point out to, I think it was sponsors, I think it was a podcast, that they were college educated, even though, according to them, virtually none of their audience was college educated. And I said, well, in your like statement and what we're going to write up, that people, we're not going to like point that out. It might actually turn off your audience if anyone reads it. So what we'll say is you've had a long career in corporate management, working in Fortune 500 companies. The assumption is you went to college if you had a whole career in like white collar corporate management. So we can by signaling B, we can say A instead of actually saying A.
That's
right?
interesting. You should bring that up.
What's that?
What was that?
Your signal, sorry.
No,
I was
it's
going to say
okay.
your signal is implied.
Yeah. So it's funny you
No,
should say
the
this.
signal is overt. The meaning of it is implied. Or rather, I imply and they infer, right?
Are you going to elicit
Or
more?
here's a great example. In my business and in every job I've ever had, not one customer ever saw what car I drove. And so and I'm not a car guy, so I just buy some generic mid-sized sedan. That's what I drive till the wheels fall off, right? But on the other hand, every real estate agent who's ever driven me around to look at houses is in a Lexus or a Mercedes. And that's why they're signaling. They're not saying I make a lot of money off people like you. They're saying I'm very successful in my role and in my profession. And the way that I convey that is a fancy car, nice clothes, and probably an expensive watch. Whereas none of those signals mean anything to any of my customers.
But the illusion, that's more of an illusion, because it could be they can't afford any of this stuff. They're just drowning in payments.
There's no reason why a signal can't be an illusion. A signal can also be very true.
Sure.
Maybe they do make a lot of money. You see, and Dr. V, you can tell me if I'm wrong, but I see a lot of doctors who drive Mercedes and Lexus, and I don't think it's because their patients ever see what car they drive. Their friends might, right? So it's a signal there. And also, they probably think they deserve a little bit of luxury, settling into a nice car and a nice seat at the end of a very long day.
That's probably true. And the appearance
we signal
of it.
with all kinds of stuff, but in copywriting, you signal with proximity. You put things near each other, and the person reading it infers the bits you leave out and then believes them more strongly because they're the ones that came up with it. And we do it through signaling. By saying X, then everyone will believe Y. So that's how you inform with the text and persuade with the subtext. And at every layer, you're doing that because at every layer, informational or inspirational or transformational, the goal is always to persuade. Otherwise, why are you writing?
Why are we here at the end of the day?
Someone else's.
So one thing that kind of struck me as you're talking about this, Dean, is I think now with a lot of the tools that we have less of a job to persuade, perhaps in some ways. Well, hear me out on this. And I see you're shaking your head down there, but one of the things that I see frequently is now if we're marketing to the right person and we tailor that perfect message towards the ideal client, we're really filtering out the ideal person that we want to buy our product. And one of the things that I've noticed recently is with AI and everything, Google is doing a lot of that. So, like for instance, my friend my friend Ed, who's an SEO guy. He's been doing a lot of work with different clients, and he signals to Google that a particular painter does work with metal and all of this. Next thing, the two things are merged together in just the
Right.
same way that people are merging things together. And he gets a water park job because it's metal and all of this, but he's never ever painted a water park in his entire life.
Right.
But I'm just saying, the AI now is so smart, it's actually merging these things together
Yeah.
for us creatively, the same way our minds would.
Right.
And so as you're walking through that, I said, wow, that is kind of a cool thing, that what we see in real life is actually happening now, by AI power.
Yeah. I mean, I don't
Yeah.
run across that much in my work, but it's mainly because for the most part, I write for someone else's live audiences, right?
Right.
So no AI is going to do the work if, a person has to say it to another person.
Right. But I think we do a much better job of tailoring the message to the right
Right.
client, the right
And it
customer.
also carries over to the other thing that we came across or talked about earlier this week, which is sort of the communication line and going 90% of the way.
Mm.
Right? It's up to us to know what we want to communicate, figure out how to communicate it, figure out what someone else is going to be interested or will pay attention to or remember, and taking it 90% of the way there so that all they have to do is pick up the last 10%. Instead of sort of, I'll go halfway and then I'll rely on strangers who don't know me and don't care about me to do the other half of the work to interpret and understand what it is I'm trying to tell them. Like nobody in advertising or marketing believes that.
No.
You see it in academic writing quite a lot, but you almost never see it in marketing or even in sales.
That's
We
true.
don't rely on other people to interpret correctly what we're trying to communicate. It's our job to do virtually all of the work and thinking so that we take it right up to the edge, and then they only have to come out a little bit and do a little bit of work.
Yeah, they usually go like about halfway there.
They'll usually, in my experience, they go about 10% of the way there. And it's mainly because, I mean, do you know anybody whose day isn't full? Do you know anybody who isn't bombarded with like distraction all day?
Everyone.
There's a surfer guy at the beach I can tell you about.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's probably not too distracted.
Maybe.
He's in a little God Bless America Speedo.
You hang out in some interesting places, Dr. V.
I do. Former water polo champion guy who likes his Speedo at the beach. So,
there you go.
Oh, you are in San Diego.
He's not overwhelmed from what I can tell.
No.
So there's a couple that maybe
are
a different situation.
I mean, ideally, you're doing most of the work and most of the thinking, and you're not relying on strangers who don't care about you to do half of the effort.
I remember
unless you're going to do it at a mass scale, then it doesn't really matter because you're just going to spend money until you get the result, right? You can go halfway if you're going to spend a lot of money and time on ads and stuff. But if you think that every prospect, is a potentially worth tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands or millions a year, then you definitely want to go as close to 100% as you can get.
Of course.
So that, you're not relying on luck or their interest or their lack of distraction to carry your message.
This might fit in with your 90%, 10% thing. So there's a quote my dad used to use all the time from that favorite author, Anonymous, which is 3%. Only 3% of people in the world think. 17% of the people think that they think. And the other 80% would rather die than think.
Yeah.
And so just giving them stuff to fill their brains, I think that might be what you're talking about with the 90%.
To do most of the thinking and work and iteration stuff for them? Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Because of the laziness factor. So.
Yeah.
But right, it's like there's a video that we had out ages ago, or I had out ages ago, where I think it said like your audience skims, and you can either, I don't know if this is the exact quote, even though I'm quoting myself, I don't know, your audience sort of skims, right? You can either decry that or optimize for it.
That's why you optimize the PS. the PS at the bottom. I'm one of those people who scroll down. Can I get to the PS quick?
There you go. Yeah, there's a reason PSs exist.
Yep.
So to the people who wanted to know if what they do, if they are going to be on level 1 and just inform, your job is still to persuade. And so you persuade with subtext. You can try to persuade with logical arguments, and people think, oh, it's B2B, so it's very like cold, and it's not. It's not cold and impersonal. Everyone wants to move out of their negative present and into a positive future, whether it's an engineer buying a new type of, paint to put on cars and machinery, or someone who, is making trying to make a logo decision for their entire company, right?
Sure.
So, yeah, I lost my
project management software. Make my life easier, make me happier.
Yeah.
So everyone's looking to get out of a negative present in the positive future. And so you're always on the hook to do as much of the work as you can. I'll be honest, most of the work is just taking what you've written down and created and refining it so that it's as comprehensible as possible. You need to clean up your own thinking, and then it becomes easier for everyone else to ingest your thinking.
Mm-hmm.
So to the people who are saying, what about informational stuff? Your job is still to persuade, and that's one of the ways you do it.
Yeah, we're highly irrational beings. Or they say the book I love on my shelf, Predictably Irrational.
Yeah.
We'll buy emotionally and then justify our purchase based on our rational mind. Like, I bought this Volvo sports car because of, it was the anti-lock brakes, and it was this, and the safety record, and IHSS. No, it was fun. It's cool. Now I'm going to justify my purchase with my rational mind.
Yeah. Yep, I absolutely agree.
I'll use
so anyway, to the people who asked, that was my answer.
Nice answer.
It's a good one.
All right. Any other topics, questions, comments, dreams?
Somebody asked.
Or are we done for today?
Somebody talked about the PR department. Can the public relations department
help in
it? Interesting. I guess PR. Well, PR would be, that's definitely persuasion.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Possibly.
Yeah. Actually, I think a lot of PR work is around subtext, right? It's making sure that you're in the right place. And depending on what kind of thing you're trying to do, if you're opening a new restaurant or whatever, or you want to be seen as the next up and coming, young chef or whatever, a lot of that is subtext. Oh, you need to be at this party. You need to be at this opening. We need to show you here. We need to do this and do that. A lot of that is signaling.
Mm-hmm. Come down for the demo.
Most of PR is signaling.
So
otherwise, it's just news.
So the implication of PR is that because you're seen everywhere, you must be important,
right?
Even though you may be unknown. Right.
I mean, what is PR other than proximity and signaling?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and we are seeing a lot of that in the use of PR. It's funny. I never really thought of this until recently, but PR really does a great job of bringing back clients that have been to us before, causing us to get greater and deeper referrals.
Yeah.
Because it keeps you more top of mind, which I think is one of the great things about PR.
That proximity thing is very interesting because a lot of solopreneurs, myself included, just love to have a picture of some guru with them and a guru. So so I've got a picture of me with Damon John. So if I have Damon John and me, Shark Tank, he must be important because he's got a picture with Damon John.
Right.
So.
And I think we all did a lot of that in our early years. It was important, you're seen with somebody, you're associated with that person, you steal a little bit of their star factor.
I still love to do it. It's like like James Schramko, or I've got somebody like some of these other gurus whom we know, Ben Atkins, others. There's something about it because it is this implied thing. The signaling is this person's a big deal because they actually persuaded someone to take a photo with them.
Right.
Or the implied message is that, maybe they hang out together at the bar. He's got some special secrets from the guru, et cetera, et cetera.
And that's one of the real big things with summits when we do summits, we're seen with other experts in our field.
Right. It's one of the reasons why in a B2B context, if you're ever asked to be on a panel discussion,
Right.
you almost always want to say yes to that. It's the proximity. It's not even the signaling, it's the proximity. You're one of 4 people at a table or on a Zoom screen, right, that are experts or high-ranking folks in that field.
Or on a stage. I mean, if I'm sitting next to Gary Vee on a stage with 3 other people, holy cow, that does a lot to boost the perception.
Yeah, even if you never say anything, just the pictures alone, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. But again, proximity and signaling, it all comes down to it.
Interesting. I'm going to get close to all you guys.
That's right.
There you go. Yeah. You should take a screenshot.
Exactly.
All right. I think that's it for me. We're about 21 minutes in, so we don't like for these to go too long.
And I've got the screenshot. So.
All right, he's got the screenshot. Yeah. Someday it'll have to be worthwhile to have a picture with me in it.
I'm going to change it into an NFT. That's what
there you go.
You're all set then.
All right. Goodbye, everyone.